Call to order. City Commission meeting of Tuesday, February 5th, 2019. Let the record show that all commissioners are present. First item up is the order of business. Mr. Gaw, are there any changes to the order of business?
Thank you, President Decker. There is one under administration, D1 operations manager. We'll take that one off and bring that back to you in the future.
Okay. Any other changes to the order of business?
No, sir, that's it.
Any questions for Mr. Gaw on the changes to the order of business?
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the order of business.
Do we have a motion
As
to approve
amended.
the order of business?
Second.
With a second. Any questions for Mr. Gaw? Hearing none, all in favor of the amended order of business, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda commissioners wish to discuss?
Mr. President, I would move to approve the consent agenda.
A motion to approve the consent agenda
Second.
with a second. Any further questions on the consent or discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, we'll vote. Ms. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries on the consent agenda. Well, we have no timetable items this evening, so we'll move right into administration. And Mr. Gaw, we have the RFP for the event center.
Thank you, President Decker, Commissioners. As just somewhat of a point of reminder for both the Commission and the staff and the public, the Event Center was first discussed with the Commission at a work session last month prior to the January 22nd Commission meeting. Those work sessions are something we plan to continue on a monthly basis for the most part throughout the year to discuss some items ahead of time, and there's several items tonight that you did discuss during the work session. This proposal for the Event Center being one of those. To clarify, this is to put out an RFP, so to request proposals from consulting companies who will come in and complete a study for an event center and make a recommendation of, is an event center here feasible? And if so, perhaps what should be included, the size and approximate cost to both construct and operate. So this is something that will go on for several months. If approved tonight, we're developing a list of consultants who do this type of work. We'll send it out, get that back, and bring it to you in March. And hopefully the study would get started in May, and by August, September, we'll have a final product.
Okay. Any questions from Mr. Gaw on the RFP? Hearing no questions, I'd look for a motion.
Move to approve, Mr. President.
We have a motion to approve
Second.
with a second. Any further discussion or questions on the RFP? Hearing none, we'll vote. Ms. Trustum?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Mr. Gaw, we have a board appointment, planning and zoning.
Yes, you'll note in your packet there are several applications. Some of them indicate several interests in city committees. Some of them are just specific to the planning and zoning. There are several. We had looked at several of them and made a potential recommendation of George Nodland, but after some discussion, some of you may want to discuss that a little bit, and we're certainly open to that.
Okay, any questions or discussion on the recommendation or the board appointment for planning and zoning?
Mr. President, is there a planning and zoning meeting this month? Does this vacancy need to be filled this evening?
We, our February planning and zoning has been canceled already.
Okay. I think we have some really outstanding candidates in this pool, and I think we have some with a lot of experience and others that would bring a really unique perspective to the current planning and zoning board. One recommendation I would have is to maybe ask them to come to the next meeting and address why they would like to be on the board. I think it's important to get an opportunity to meet these people and understand what their objective is by applying to be on the board.
Any other comments or questions? We do have some, we do have some time. I had brought this up with Mr. God, that we would get this done by this meeting, because at the time, we still had a February planning and zoning. So,
And if we do decide to do this, could we in the process maybe contact everybody and see if they're open to any of the other boards we have available, openings on?
Yes, and some of them actually gave some preferences and stuff, so I think that's a great idea. But yeah, I think asking them to come, we can certainly do that. Like I said, time's on our side, so we can do so.
I think we only have, out of the 5 applicants, we only have one that's marked multiple boards that he's willing to serve on. So, but we can ask the other 4 also.
Sure.
I know we have a couple openings on special assessment. Mr. Kubis, am I correct? And the Energy Committee. And I don't know how the library board's sitting right now, but Ms. Walla you're on library board right now. Are they full?
From what I know,
Okay.
put anything
Yeah.
during our meetings.
Okay. But we can do that. We can contact them all and see if they're willing to come to the next meeting. So it looks like we want to table this, so
I would make that motion, Mr.
Okay.
President.
we have a motion to table the appointment.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions for Mr. Goff? Not, we'll vote on tabling the appointment for planning and zoning. Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries to table this. Next item up is a beer and wine concession liquor license for the Badlands Big Sticks. Mr. Goff?
Thank you, President Decker, Commission. This is for a concession liquor license during the Badlands Big Stick Games. There's been a change of ownership there, and so they did apply for a new license. The police department has reviewed it. Everything's turned in and is in order, so it's the recommendation to approve that license request.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Goff on the license request? Hearing no questions, I'd look for a motion on,
Move to approve, Mr. President.
all right, we have a motion to approve the beer and wine license for the Badland Big Sticks.
Second.
A second. Any further discussion or questions for Mr. Goff? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries on the beer and wine concession. HR Coordinator Nominuk. This actually will be handled by 3 people, HR Coordinator Nominuk, Public Works Director Zuroff, and Administrator Gah. And you're up.
Good evening, Mr. President, Commissioners. So I have before you the Utilities Manager job description. What we're looking at doing with this is a little bit of a restructure. We had the Water Reclamation Facility Manager and the Water Utilities Manager that we're looking at combining into one job description and overseeing both departments. This position is responsible for coordinating, directing, facilitating, and managing operations and maintenance activities of the Utilities Division of the Public Works Department. Work is performed under the general direction of the Public Works Director under the direction of the Director with consultation of the Operations Manager, may also act on behalf of the Public Works Director in his absence. At this time, we're not bringing forward the Operations Manager, so I guess we'll work on their own on behalf of the Public Works Director. Responsibilities include city's water distribution, wastewater collection, stormwater collection, water reclamation facility systems, and assuring compliance with sampling, monitoring, dissemination of results, and reporting requirements of the City of Dickinson to the North Dakota Department of Health, North Dakota State Water Commission, and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. So after we went through and kind of combined both of the job descriptions, adding essential duties, skills, abilities, and went through and scored it, it stayed at the same score, the same level as the both positions were in before. Actually, we did change it a little bit. The environment, I think we had scored a little bit high before. We had it at a 5D, and we changed it to a 3D because they really are not out in the field every day like the operators would be. So, but it still stayed in the same grade level. So any questions from the commission, we'd be happy to help.
Any questions for Mrs. Nominick? Hearing no questions, I'd look for a motion on this utility manager position.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve
Second.
with a second. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries on the utility manager. Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, I guess you have some reports for us,
Another
the
one,
hiring journal.
yes. Okay, so the hiring journal, first on the list is police officer. At this time, we have one opening. We had, from a prior opening, we have someone still in the background. We currently have actually 2 openings currently for police officer. The position is open for a little while. It'll close about mid-February, but we are getting applications in on that. We had an internal opening for patrol sergeant, and that was filled internally with Sergeant Jason Wallace. We have a internal opening because of that for corporal, a patrol corporal position, and that position will, the opening will close this week, and they'll begin the interviews on that position. For the animal control department, we just recently hired a part-time person to help out with animal control, and that person is on board and working for us. We have an animal control supervisor position that's been vacant for a little while. We started the interviews on that today, hoping to wrap that up tomorrow. Records clerk, we had an opening for that. We hired internally, actually. It was one of our dispatchers that moved over to records, which then opened up a position as a communication specialist in the dispatch department. So we'll be getting that opened up and interviews for our applications coming in for that. Water treatment plant, we had 2 positions open for that. We did fill one recently. He has been working for quite a while now for us, and we have 1 position that will be closing tomorrow, I believe, for the wastewater treatment plant operator. We have a solid waste landfill operator. We actually have 6 positions open right now for landfill. One collection, 1 landfill operator, and 6 route operator openings. So that position is closing today. We're trying to get the interview set up for that. And the landfill operator also closes today. Let's see. HR assistant position, we did fill that position. She's been working for us for a little bit now, doing a wonderful job. Legal assistant, we did fill also, and she's been on board for about a month now. Risk management specialist position, that position did close last week. We just scheduled all the interviews for that position for the next couple weeks from now. So we did get several applicants there. Property appraiser, we had open for a little while. We did have a declined offer, so we reopened the position and are seeking applications. That position also closes this week. We had two positions open for firefighter, and both have been, we've made offers on both of them. One of them is in the background phase. The other one has completed the background phase, and we have a start date for him for next month. Accountant, we have opened the position for an accountant position, and we are in the interview process. We've actually made an offer, waiting to hear back on that. And then we have an outreach services librarian position, and that actually is closing today as well.
Ms. Dominic, just a quick point of clarification. I believe the legal assistant started on January 22nd, so we would be 2 weeks today. I'm very excited and appreciative of her presence at the office.
How many applicants did we end up with the solid waste? Today, they closed today, right?
It did close today. Ally was still calling some of the applicants that had not completed the city application. I don't know that for route operator, I don't know that she had any luck collecting any additional applications, so I believe there's still 5 applicants that completed the application. We did get several more for landfill, so I believe she said we had like 5 or 6 applicants for the landfill position, where we had 1 yesterday, I believe. So her efforts have proven helpful.
And on the risk management specialist, you said several. Are we talking?
5.
5, okay. Any other questions for Mrs. Nominick? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next report will be the Board of Equalization meeting and date in Vanguard. And we have Assessor Hirschfeld here.
Good evening, Mr. President, Commissioners. Just want to let you know the Vanguard revaluation is complete. We did get that in last week. So we'll be looking to have an opportunity to sit down and kind of discuss where the assessing department's at this year and the upcoming Board of Equalization. We anticipate being prepared for the statutory date of the second Tuesday in April, which is April 9th. And in addition to that, the president of Vanguard, Bob Ayler, will be in Northwest South Dakota Monday the 8th that evening. So it's convenient to him if we hold our meeting the 9th. It's also convenient to us because we don't have the additional cost to have him come back out to discuss the work that they did. So just looking to see if we're all right with staying on the 9th there and maybe setting a time for that. Don't know that we have to set a time at this evening, but other than that, that's about all I have for you tonight. So
I think we typically hold that at 5 p.m. Rita, am I wrong on that? At 5 p.m., right? I think in the past we have.
I believe that'd be correct, or I mean, we could even start at normal start time of 4:30 and get through all the reports and everything ahead of that time, and still should provide ample opportunity for any property owner to come in after work at 5 o'clock too, so they can contest any values if they feel necessary. So 4:35, whatever best suits the commission's fine with us.
So we'll have it on the April 9th. And we'll set a time up here. Commissioners, do you have a preference?
I'd say let's do the 4:30.
Okay.
April 9th?
April 9th, 4:30. Okay. Sounds like a setup, 4:30, April 9th.
Very good. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to public safety. We have fire department up. They have a surplus fire truck.
Good evening, President Decker and Commissioners. Well, the good news is, as you've heard before, I believe, the new truck is here. It is almost ready to go online. There are just a few parts and pieces we're still working on installing and are waiting on arrival. We're going to be very, very happy with that truck. So it comes time now to ask for your permission to declare 2 of our apparatus surplus. Our intent would be to sell them by sealed bid. One is a 1981 GMC Emergency 1 pumper. The other is a 1985 GMC Emergency 1 pumper. Both trucks will be replaced by the pumping capacity of the new one that we just purchased.
Okay, any questions for Chief Seebach? I think they've served faithfully. It's time to be retired.
They have.
Maybe you can sell them to Dickinson, Texas, and they won't have to change the door out.
Yes. I just received a call today from a community in Texas wanting to talk to the chief of Dickinson, Texas, believe it or not.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Chief Seebach on these 2 trucks? If not, I'd look for a motion to declare the 2 trucks surplus.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion to approve the 2 fire trucks as surplus with a second. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you. Commissioners, again, I'd like to state for the sake of the community, this is the first time in my tenure with the fire department that we can say that our fleet is now current by NFPA standards. And that is because of the consideration that we've received from the commission when we've come to you asking for purchases. Thank you.
Thanks,
One,
Chief.
one quick question, Chief.
Yes.
What, do you publish the sales? Do you know when the sale will happen?
We'll try to, now that you've given us the permission to do so, we'll try to get the ad written up and in the paper as soon as we can.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, we have nothing from the police department this evening. We'll move into engineering, and we have a A2S master service agreement. City Engineer Kubis.
Thank you, President Decker, Commissioners. This master service agreement is very similar to ones we've seen recently in the past. And it puts A2S in the same group now with KLJ, Apex, and Highlands, all working off the same master service agreement called the EJCDC Master Service Agreement Task Order Edition. One correction I noted that didn't get made, it's pretty minor, that all the other task orders or master service agreements we have are for 2-year terms, and I see this one didn't get updated, it shows 3 years. We'd like to revise that to 2 years just to be consistent with the other consultants that we have. Again, this agreement doesn't bind the city to any monetary contract. It's just the framework for task orders moving forward, which in this case would be the next agenda item. So with that, staff has reviewed this, would recommend approval, and be open for any questions.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Kubis on the service agreement? Okay, no questions, I'd look for a motion.
I'd make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve
Second.
with a second. Any further discussion or questions on the AE2S Master Service Agreement? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries on the service agreement. Mr. Kubis, we have a task order.
Yes, thank you. The task order to complement the master service agreement, again, is with A2S for the reuse fill station. This is a project that's been in the works for several years in some form or fashion. And the reuse fill station that we're looking at right now, the location would be somewhere near Highway 10 and 116th Avenue, north of the current refinery, west of town. This task order would include the design of a pipeline from where it ends right now is by the railroad tracks. It would extend north towards Highway 10 to some land that we have not acquired yet. And this task order would include geotechnical, environmental, and right-of-way services that we anticipate will all be utilized. This would be task order number 1 with AE2S in the amount of $196,807. Again, staff has reviewed this scope and task order and would recommend approval. With that, I'd open it up for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Kubis on this refinery, the refinery agreement for the reuse fill station?
Mr. President, I would move to approve the task order number 1 with AE2S.
We have a motion to approve task order number 1.
Second.
With a second. Any further questions or comments for Mr. Kubis? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries on task order number 1 with AE2S.
Thank you. The next item we have is a resolution. We do this annually for our sidewalk improvement districts. Based on the conversations we had after our summary discussion of the 2018 program, what we heard was we want this to remain as it was last year, finish up the city sidewalks and leave it as a voluntary program, open to the citizens to either install new sidewalk or replace old sidewalk, but not to make it a mandatory program or a mandatory special improvement district that the city could just pick and choose landowners that we'd like. So this is the exact same resolution as it was worded last year, again with updated resolution numbers and dates. Really what this resolution does, it authorizes us to bid the project out and encompasses the entire city, making it able to be utilized by everyone within the city.
We budgeted the same as,
Budget
Last
was the same, $215,000.
did we have any carryover?
We didn't utilize it all, but I don't know that we necessarily carried the
Oh,
money
okay.
over. It goes back to the sales tax fund that it
Sales
came
tax,
from.
okay. It seems to be a good program. We've got a lot of our sidewalk done, and some landowners stepped up and did theirs too, so.
I would think though, after this year, either the budget number will be able to come down next year, or we would need to make it a more mandatory program and really pick and choose either areas or properties that we want to see sidewalk in. We have that ability, but right now we've been having some success with the voluntary program, so
Agreed.
good to leave it voluntary while it's still working.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Kubis on the sidewalk improvement district resolution, which should be 04-2019? Correct. Hearing no other questions, I'd look for a motion on resolution 04-2019.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion to approve with a second. Any further discussion or questions for Mr. Kubis? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries on 04-2019. State revolving loan, old loan. Mr. Kubis.
President Decker, Commissioners, this item is to close out an existing loan that we've had, that we've built almost all of our major sewer projects with in the last 6 years. It was one bulk loan, similar to a construction loan that we were approved up to $42 million, and then we drew on that loan as we built projects. And right now, we have some corresponding items to open up new loans because that revolving loan fund program has lowered its interest rates from 2.5%, which this old loan is at, to 2%. So while we had some funds available left in this old loan, we were assured there's money available at 2%. So, and the state would like to see this loan closed out too. It's been open since probably 2012, at least. So it's kind of hanging out there. We'd like to close it out, finish up our payment schedule on this loan, and then move forward with 3 new loans. So right now, I think all we need is a motion to approve the the signing and sending in this letter.
All right, any questions for Mr. Kubis on the state revolving fund loan and the closure of it? Hearing no questions, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we sign and send this letter in to close out the current loan with the revolving loan fund.
We have a motion to approve the closure of the loan.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion or questions for Mr. Kubis on this loan? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Before we move into the next item, Mrs. Carlson, could we get an update on our city debt for the next meeting? If you could prepare something for us, just
Yeah.
where we're sitting on our loan, our debt.
Yes, you will be getting that because we will be giving the year-end financials for 18 also.
Okay. Just good for the public to know where we're sitting in our debt. So, okay, we have a state revolving fund loan, new loan, Mr. Kubis, for the reuse water station.
Thank you, President Decker and Commissioners. Like I had mentioned, the old loan that we closed out was for many, many projects. A few meetings ago, we had Apex present our facility plan, and there were 3 projects that were in the very near term, 2019 projects. And so those are the 3 resolutions that are in your package today for those 3 projects. The reuse water fill station, which we just entered into an agreement with A2S to do the design work on. A south gravity sewer main project that Apex has been working on, and also the lift station 1 improvement projects, which I'd like to give a brief update on after we approve these resolutions. So essentially, we need a motion on each resolution because they're requiring a separate loan, and each loan application requires its own resolution number. So the resolutions are all the same except for the description of the project. So the first one we have is a resolution to authorize the filing of the application for the loan with the Department of Health, and that is for the reuse water fill station. So again, staff has reviewed all these resolutions. The wording is all the same. We'll just need 3 separate approvals of 3 separate resolutions.
Okay, any questions on the new loans for the reuse water station, the south gravity sewer main project, or lift station 1 improvement?
Mr. President, I'd move we approve the reuse water station new loan.
Okay, we have a motion to approve Resolution 05-2019 on the reuse water station.
Second.
A second. Any further questions for Mr. Kubis on the reuse water station loan? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We'll move on to the South Gravity Sewer Main Project. This will be Resolution 06-2019. This is a new loan to improve the South Gravity Sewer Main Project.
Again, nothing new in the resolution. This project has been, this was actually identified in our comprehensive plan, so it's a project we know we've needed for several years now. As you can see on the map, it starts on 8th Street South by some of the buildings Wind Construction has on their property, and then it goes north. It will flow north on 5th, then jog over to 4th, jog over to 3rd, and end up in the new lift station we built 2 years ago, lift station 5. It's just an old main. It's over capacity, and there's really no more room for any development there with those multifamily apartments that went in on the south of 8th Street. So,
Mr. Kubis, that 8th Street was just recently reconstructed. Will that have to be?
it will. 8th Street was constructed for about a block and a half from Highway 22.
Okay,
and
so this
will be
is
west
old
of
concrete then, well, that'll be it.
Right,
Impacted.
and most of this line, I think, will be outside of the roadway. I can't
Okay.
remember the exact design right now. It's not completely designed, so there's still some leeway, but it won't go in the new concrete.
Okay. Any other questions on the South Gravity Sewer Main Project loan? Hearing none, I look for a motion on 06-2019.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve
Second.
with a second. Any further questions for Mr. Kubis? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries on 06-2019. Next item up is Lift Station 1 Improvement Station. This will be Resolution 07-2019.
Thank you, President Decker, Commissioners. This project was for Lift Station 1. The update on this project is the bid date for it was this afternoon at 3 p.m. And unfortunately, we didn't receive a complete set of bids. When we do these vertical building projects, we have to bid it with an electrical component, a mechanical component, and a general contracting component to the bid. We received 2 electrical bids and no general bids and no mechanical bids. So right now we've opened the electrical bids. We have an apparent low bidder, and we're working on rebidding out the other 2 components of the project right now. So it was unfortunate to see that we've always received bids on these lift station projects in the past. So we're going to do some investigating to see why exactly the market's apparently shifted a little bit here, and I guess we'll go from there. But our intent is still to move forward with the project this year. We need to drum up more interest in the project from the mechanical and the general contracting end. So.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Kubis on Lift Station 1 Improvement Project? This will be Resolution 07-2019. I'd look for a motion on it.
Mr. President, I would move to approve.
I have a motion to approve
Second.
with a second. Any further questions? Comments for Mr. Kubis? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries on 07-2019. Move on to Public Works. We have a master service agreement with Houston Engineering, and Public Works Director Zuroff will be handling this.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission members. This is another master service agreement, the same one that the engineering just presented, but this is with Houston Engineering. They were the consultant chosen for engineering services for the Dickinson Solid Waste Facility. The master service agreement is for analysis and design services, and this is for 3 years, and all work will be directed and documented by an approved task order. We decided to extend it another year because of the different tasks involved and getting familiar with the solid waste facility.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Zuroff on task order number 19-01?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, this will be for the master service agreement.
Okay, I opened the wrong thing here. Master service agreement. Okay, any
Listed under
questions on
6C.
the master service agreement?
It was listed under 6C.
Any other questions on the master service agreement?
Move to approve, Mr. President.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Zuroff? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commission. The next I have task order 19-01 for annual groundwater monitoring reporting. This is for the groundwater monitoring reporting required under the North Dakota Department of Health permit for the solid waste facility. Services include end report for groundwater data, groundwater sampling, surface water leachate sampling, methane monitoring, subcontractor laboratory analysis. The estimated fee for these services is $25,180. of which 13,180 is for the required laboratory sampling and analysis. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Zuroff. Any questions for Mrs. Zuroff on this task order? This is task order 19-01. And I'd look for a motion on it if there are no more questions or comments.
Move to approve, Mr. President.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
With a second. Any comments or questions for Mr. Zuroff? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries on task order 19-01.
Thank you. The next task order is 19-02. This is for the Tier 2 monitoring, which is the non-methane organic compound monitoring, and this is dealing with air quality. Compliance and reporting, which is now required since landfill has reached the threshold which warrants the Tier 2 assessment. The services include the installation of monitoring probes, sampling and analysis, and reporting and recommendation based on the data. The estimated fee for these services is $21,150, of which $1,950 is for subcontractor sampling and analysis, and $5,200 is for subcontractor field services. Again, staff recommends approval.
Okay, any questions on task order 19-02 for the compliance and reporting of our Tier 2 NMOC?
Mr. President, I'd move to approve 19-02.
I have a motion to approve
Second.
with a second. Any further questions from Mrs. Zuroff on this task order? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. And task order 19-02.
Thank you, Commission. The next task order is 1903. This is the last task order with Houston Engineering, and it's for the annual reporting and general services. For the Dickinson Waste Management Facility, the services include the compliance report required by the Department of Health for the landfill, lime sludge area, and the Baylor building permits. Also includes landfill airspace analysis of maps required, and reports are included in the annual report. Also, general support and development of the 2019 quarter report, survey support services, and other tasks, along with coordination meetings and presentations to the commission if that. The total estimated fee for these services is $35,935, and staff recommends approval. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And also, Sherwin Warner, who is representing Houston Engineering, is in the audience if you have any questions for him.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Zuroff or Mr. Warner? Hearing no questions, I'd look for a motion on this task order.
Move to approve?
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
With a second. Any further questions or comments for staff or Mr. Warner? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries on 1903. Mr. Zuroff, you have a hazardous tree removal district resolution.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission members. This resolution is done annually, which creates a tree removal improvement district throughout the city. It allows citizens to contract for the removal of trees deemed hazardous by the city forester and have those costs then assessed as a special assessment on the property. Special assessment allows property owners to amortize the cost of the tree removal. The city forester license and approves the arborist capable of safely removing these trees, and property owners are required to seek quotes from these approved contractors. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer to the annual resolution and recommend approval.
Okay, this is resolution 08-2019. This is something we do on an annual basis. I guess I have just one question. Have we ever had an issue with the forester deeming a tree hazardous and then a landowner saying, you know, wanting an appeal to that, or, I guess I've never heard a complaint. We've heard some concerns about certain trees before coming down.
I don't think we have. I know with before we had a forester, we had a certified, elm tree diagnostician, is what they called it. I can't even say it, but we used that and the state forester for recommendations as far as deemed disease. I don't think, I've used this once before on a tree that was falling on 3 or 4 houses, and I had no problems with them deeming that a hazardous situation. So I've had nobody, I guess,
Want to appeal a decision.
try to appeal the decision.
And these are generally diseased trees.
Normally, like I said, a year or so ago, we did I don't know if it was diseased, it was falling, the branches were falling on multiple houses, and it was a vacant lot for a vacant property.
And this does allow for the landowner to put it on as a special if
Correct.
needed, so. Any other questions for Mr. Zeroff? Hearing no questions, I'd look for a motion on Resolution 08-2019.
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve
Second?
with a second. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries on Resolution 08-2019. We'll move into planning, and we have a future land use amendment, and Planning Director Hadley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, ordinance 1666, this is the second reading, and it's a future land use amendment just east of Players. That was heard last time and discussed, and it was changing it from commercial to residential. There hasn't been any other comments, and staff would still recommend approval of this to the commission.
And if I'm correct, Mr. Hadley, we had a public hearing.
We did last time, yes, sir.
Yes, at the last.
The next slide shows the map, and I believe you have them in your packets this time as well.
Any questions for Mr. Hadley on, and this is an ordinance 1666. This is the amendment to the future land use. And the rezoning will happen in item B.
Move to approve second reading, final passage, ordinance number 1666.
I have a motion to approve ordinance number 1666
Second.
with a second. Any further questions, comments for Mr. Hadley? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries on ordinance 1666. Mr. Hadley, we have 1667, and that is lots 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, 12, of Block 18 in Young's 5th edition.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This is the second reading of ordinance 1667. Similar request is changing it from commercial to residential in the future land use. On the future land use map, there haven't been any comments or concerns from the public since our last reading. We did hold a public hearing the last time as well, and staff would still recommend approval of this item.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. Any questions for Mr. Hadley on this future land use amendment? Not, I'd look for a motion on ordinance 1667.
Mr. President, I would move to approve the second reading and final passage of ordinance number 1667.
We have a motion to approve ordinance number 1667.
Second?
With a second. Any further comments or questions for Mr. Hadley? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries on ordinance number 1667. Mr. Hadley, we have a rezoning for the same properties.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Ordinance number 1668, once again, second reading. It corresponds to ordinance 1666. It's the zone change that is changing the zone from commercial to R2 residential. No comments from the public, and staff would still concur and recommend that the City Commission approve.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. Any questions for Mr. Hadley on ordinance number 1668? Hearing none, I'd look for a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve
Second.
with a second. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries on ordinance 1668. Mr. Hadley, ordinance 1669.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Ordinance 1669 corresponds to the follow-up with the Flume Ordinance 1667. It is also changing the zoning from GC to R2, medium-density residential. There hasn't been any comments on this request either, and staff would still recommend approval to the commission.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Hadley on ordinance 1669? Hearing none, I'd look for a motion.
Move to approve?
Motion to approve 1669
Second.
with a second. Any further questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries on ordinance number 1669. We have nothing from Building and Codes this evening. No timetable. Public issues of city concern not on the agenda. If there is anyone from the public that has any concern that has not been placed on our agenda this evening, please come forward, state your name, and let us know your concern. Seeing no one from the public has any concerns. Item 11, Commissioners, we have the possibility of going into executive session to discuss the appraisals.
Mr. President, can you open it up for discussion, other issues for commissioners?
Sure. Before we do that,
Okay. Mr. Zuroff, can you give us a report on the streets and how we're doing, et cetera? I mean, you've had 3 weeks of snow.
Yep.
60 mile an hour wind.
M&M in my.
minus 60-degree weather, rain, and more snow. It shouldn't be a problem.
It's been very difficult to try to, be proactive in these types of storms. So I guess I'll start from today maybe and go backwards. They have been salting and sanding, but with this cold, nothing's sticking. Usually you can pre-wet that stuff, but with these temperatures, that isn't working very well. So the sand and salt that's being out there isn't sticking, so the roads continue to be slick today. I think the last storm that started Sunday night, it looked like it was going to be a significant storm at first, and the wind was blowing. We did have discussions, and the no travel advisory was sent out, and we did start hitting our priority 1 and priority 2s that Sunday night, and then started again Monday morning at 5, and continue to do that. It was one of those storms too. It looked like there would be considerable amount of snow. And at what levels do you prepare for that? Do you call out contractors? How many more people do you get? But after, in a lot of the residential areas too, that snow really packed down. Downtown, we were originally planning on picking up. There's not enough really to work that to pick up. And then the rain before that, caused issues after it. So it's been really hard with the temperature fluctuation, with using brine, salt, and sand. I guess I can say that again. If you have any issues or concerns, please call Public Works, and we'll get to them as soon as we can.
I've been doing a lot of driving around the last few days, and the only recommendation I can make it, I don't know if we need to put more sand on it if it's getting blown off. Could be blown off with all the high winds and everything, but to me it looks like we just could be putting a little more sand on some of these intersections.
It is blowing this time of year. One of the things I've done in my previous job, we used a little bigger sand called a slug, but the problem with that, then it sticks in this weather, but then also it could cause some windshield issues.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll look at seeing if there's somewhere in between, that we can use that doesn't blow it. Yeah, with this cold, it just doesn't stick, and we can't pre-wet it, so.
Then the other item I want to discuss is letting the public know of when we're going to be out there cleaning so they can get the vehicles off the streets, and even just update them with what we're doing and so on. You know, that communication, they want to know what's going on. And I see when we let them know, then they start to pass it throughout Facebook and so on too, and I've been reading that and so on.
And
So
we have a lot of users on Facebook that use a lot. I don't go to Facebook, so I don't know how many users, but I know it's used a lot.
it's in our ordinance also that we should be contacting the radio, media, and so
And I
on.
believe, in fact, Steve Kurtz was on a ride-along Monday morning, if you saw that on the film on the news. So we had the KX News out there Monday morning. So, you know, we'll continue to try to do a better job with communication.
I know it's tough. People are concerned, and so we're all getting the calls and everything. And of course, my standard is we got to get a little bit tougher in North Dakota than what we were tough. I don't know what happened lately, but my sidewalk's or my garage or driveway is 24 feet wide, and my shovel's 2 feet wide. It doesn't take too much to realize it's not that much to clear that out of there. But on the other hand, you got some elderly out there that can't do that, and I know we discussed and tried to let them know that they can call and the city will have someone out there to do that. And we'd like to keep that open for the elderly and not, healthy young people that they just don't want to go out and clean the driveway.
And at this point, our plan is, and we can change it, is to hopefully when it warms up, then we can hit some residential and clean those up. Right now, with all that ice underneath and everything, it's going to be real difficult to clean that up unless we get more snow.
Yeah. The rain didn't help.
We could try to clean some of that residential up.
Yeah. Thank you. I know the guys work at 2 a.m. in the morning till noon and extra overtime and so on.
Any questions, concerns, please contact us and we'll try to...
A lot of people don't realize that the same guys that run those maintainers are the ones doing the garbage trucks, doing the sanding trucks, the brine trucks, etc. So it's a tough job.
I would echo what Mr. Steiner says. I think overall we're doing a really great job. The biggest concern is, right, I think today was just because of some of the hard pack on some of the intersections. And it is tough to get something to stick on those, and it just keeps getting packed down. And the amount of traffic we're getting on the main roads, of course, is what makes them really icy. And but tell your guys they're doing a good job and appreciate all their hard work. So, all right, back to commissioners. Do you have anything else before we decide to possibly go into this executive session? I guess that'll be up for discussion if you guys want to talk about these appraisals.
And it's for contract negotiations and negotiation strategy, so it's kind of the overall project.
Okay, then I'd look for a motion to move to executive.
So move.
Second.
All in favor of moving to executive to discuss contract negotiations on the real estate acquisition? State aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We will be moving to executive session.
Keep going for the mouse.
We are now back from executive session, back into the public session, and I believe that, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like to state on the record the summary of our discussion.
Upon our discussion in executive session, we have given our city administrator and planning director negotiation instructions, and we will continue weighing our options with the Dickinson Downtown Square. And that completes our agenda items. I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Moved. Second.
We are adjourned.